What up, people? It's your boy Chig on Green and Eagle Eye. That's right, you're through to the chopping block. Now, for those of you who are wondering what the chopping block is, and this is your first time with me, essentially, this is my docket list of people who I would like to sell in every single summer transfer window. Some may be the same names that you've heard before with new reasons. Some may be the exact same names you've heard before with the same reasons. And some may be brand new names that you wouldn't have even considered. And I'll give you my reasons for it. If you notice, whenever I'm in a chat room, I tend to avoid these questions because I know I'll answer it in my chopping block series. So I offer one name every single season, every single week, until hopefully either they're sold or the transfer window's up. Why the African music in the background? Just because, motherfucker. Just because. So now that that's clear, let's move on to who we're talking about today, and that is Mr. Hector Bellerin. Yes, that's right, Hector Bellerin. Come front and center, we need you at the docket, please. And let's talk about Hector Bellerin, the 25-year-old right back who's seemingly been at our club since forever. Actually joined our club in 2011 as a 16-year-old, and made his debut 2 years later in the Worthington Cup in 2013, and played reasonably well. He's always been a player where he's excited people because of his pace. He had a lot of pace and tenacity, and he kind of reminded people, especially for those of us old enough to remember, when Ashley Cole made his debut. I remember when Ashley Cole made his debut, everybody had a very similar sort of excitement about him, which here we saw a player who on that left-hand side looked a lot tenacious, had a lot of pace and guile to him. I wouldn't necessarily say Hector had the guile, but he had a lot of pace, a lot of intent, and we felt that if he could continue to develop, he would get better. I mean, listen, I would suggest a lot of players that come from that Barcelona school tend to be good players, and we'd obviously just witnessed at the time a Cesc Fabregas, who we managed to get from Barcelona, go on and kick on and become one of our better players of our recent Arsenal history. So we all assumed that Hector Bellerin would follow in the same vein. And initially he broke into the team, started doing very well, kind of around the age of 18, 19. Never could cross the ball, but always had the ability to use his pace effectively. That was his best tool. But then he never kicked on, he never developed. I think we always hoped that he would eventually learn how to cross the ball. He didn't. We always assumed that defensively he would get better. He didn't. And he was also unlucky in the sense that he picked up a couple of really bad long-term injuries. And you guys know how I feel about players picking up knee injuries. 9 times out of 10, you're very rarely the same player once you pick up a knee injury. And these were some of the struggles that Hector Bellerin had to deal with. He was out 9 months at a time or a season at a time. So even every time he had an opportunity to develop and kick on, he would be hampered by a long-term injury. And I think that really affected his development as a player. Because if we're being honest, and I put this question to you guys the other day on the show, if I'm being honest, when you look at Hector Bellerin, does he look like a player that's improved, that's developed, that's moved on? I don't know. Me personally, I think Hector Bellerin as a person clearly is going through some changes in development. When you think about Hector Bellerin now, you don't just think about him as a player. You think about him as an activist these days, as a podcaster these days, as a model. But you don't necessarily always think of him as a player. Remember, this is also a player that once famously said that he was intimidated by Alexis Sanchez's attitude of, being obsessed with football and always wanting to play football. And the fact that he doesn't obsess with football like that. Like, for him, this is a clock in, clock out job. And I think that shows. It does show. You can always tell when someone wants to be better at something because they practice at it, they develop at it, they become obsessed with it, they find ways to become better. They try and look into how to become, what it is that they're doing wrong and what it is that they can do better. With Hector Bellerin, you don't get the sense that he does that. You almost get the sense that he just goes through the motions. And I think people give him that pass because the boy has effectively grown up with us. He joined us at 16. Remember, he's Spanish and he's got one of the most Cockney accents I've ever heard. So this guy, by all intents and purposes, is a Londoner via Spain. So, and I think people kind of take him under his wing because of that. But as I've always said, and this is a saying I've made very famous on the show, Arsenal fans are too obsessed with sentiment. And I think if they're being honest with themselves, when you look at Hector Bellerin, is this a player who's going to kick on at the age of 25 and become anything more than what he is right now? I remember when I was discussing this very recently with the chat room, and people just assumed that Hector Bellerin was still that 22, 23-year-old. We should hold on to him for one more year. He's 25 years old now. And actually, by all intents and purposes, is one of the senior players on the team. And whilst that might be the case, you don't feel like he's the most integral. Truth be told, you don't feel like he's one of the 10 most integral players in the team. And that, for me, is a big problem. And this is, as harsh as I can be during this chopping blocks, this is not about, trying to tear Hector Bellerin a new one or being unfair towards him. Just ask yourself the question, from the moment that he broke into the team in 2013, has he really developed that much? Has he really kicked on that much? Has he learned how to cross a ball? Has he learned how to tackle? Has he learned how to track his runner? There's so many things you can suggest is wrong with that Hector Bellerin game. I don't need to run down that list for you. I think in 2017 he signed a 6-year contract, which seemed like a mad thing to do. And now we're in a situation where, no, so it was 2016, apologies, he signed that 6-year contract. And now he still has 2 years left on that same contract, which I believe is worth £100,000 a week. Most recently, he's been linked with moves to Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, AC Milan and Inter Milan. And deep down, I'm sure he would have hoped and expected that one day he would go back to the likes of Barcelona, who would be desperate to have him back. And I think it's the most telling thing over this whole situation is, other than maybe one season 4 years ago, that has never happened. Barcelona have never shown an interest in him. And that is quite damning to his development and where he is as a player, that Barcelona have zero interest in him. From my perspective, if it was me and you're seeking cash, you sell Hector Bellerin. You get 30 million for him, 35 million for him, cut your losses, move on, go and find a right back like a Max Aarons, who is younger, who's defensively better, and I think will make a better impact on the team long term. And with Hector, for me, I wish the boy all the best. It's just, I'm not going to kill him because he's not good enough. He's just not good enough for us. He's not a bad guy. Who cares if he has long hair? Who cares if he's a fashion model? Who gives a crap? But I think from my perspective, I'm an Arsenal fan, and I only want the very best for this team. And Hector Bellerin is not the very best for this team. But what do you guys think? Let me know. Leave it in the comments below. And I'll be back next week. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Take care for now. Peace.